Tiny, I did it again. Tiny, I don't know if I'm alive yet. I did it again, Tiny, please. Can you pass me the books, please? On my phone so I can see comments as well. Am I live? I'm live. Tiny, this as well. Am I live? I'm live. Tiny. Sorry, 1 second, guys. Am I live? I'm live. Tiny. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, can you hear me? I'm sorry about that. Welcome to the live. Welcome. I thought I would come in here as something I really want to talk about that is really, really important. So I'm just going to wait and see if I can see some comments and if anyone can see me. Oh, yay! Excellent. So I'm loud and clear. Brilliant. Excellent. All right. So I want to speak about something that is been a long time coming. It's been a big week. This is still in the top 10. I think it's number 2 in the US in sacred geometry. And this is number 3 in the US sacred geometry. And I think it's number 4, 3, 5 in the UK and number 6 in the UK and so on. It's been a freaking mind-blowing week. So what I want to speak about today is I'm going to say something now that the entire self-development industry is not ready for. But if you're here, you are. There comes a moment in your evolution where you stop upgrading your life and you begin rewriting the architecture reality uses to organize around you. And when that moment comes, nothing in the old paradigm applies anymore. Not the methods, not the logic, not the identity, not the rules. And you feel it. This is not something you think or plan. You feel it. You feel it in your fascia, in your breath. You feel it in the quiet between your thoughts, that unmistakable pull that tells you you're no longer here to learn. And more and more and more and more people are feeling that, now more than ever. I have waited years for this moment. So many years. I have no idea. Years of knowing this work would go global. Years of sensing the magnitude of what Codex would become. Years of feeling the world inch closer and closer to the frequency that could finally hold this level of truth without fracturing back into the old paradigm. It's been a long time coming. Because for the longest time, I carried Codex like a frequency no one else had the receptors for. My whole life. Not because people weren't intelligent enough or clever enough or anything like that. Just they weren't hungry enough. Or maybe not because they were not hungry enough. But because what I do know, the world was still wrapped so tightly in identity, in a chokehold of trauma narrative, something that if you've been in my world for a while, if you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that has never been part of my way of life and not an identity I own or possess. The world has been wrapped so tightly in emotional logic. It has gripped humanity into a chokehold of strangulation, subconscious programming, and the obsession with fixing the human experience. It's off the scales crazy. But people are waking up. And so are others. And waking up not because they were wrong, but because they were early. And for years I watched brilliant people chase healing loops. Circle their own psyche. Bury themselves in frameworks. Convince themselves that transformation must be earned through pain. And believe that they had to become better humans to live bigger lives. I knew this work would collapse all of that. I knew Codex didn't refine the psyche, it removed it. I knew identity was the cage, not the compass. And I knew interference was the problem, not trauma. I knew struggle wasn't necessary. Suffering wasn't necessary. And I knew creation wasn't emotional. I knew sovereignty wasn't a mindset. It was a physics engine. But the world wasn't ready. Not at the scale that mattered. I can't tell you how many times agents have asked me to write a book that fit the market, or how many times publishers approached me with offers that required me to dilute my work into something digestible. How many times people try to convince me that I could change lives. I knew I could, I knew I would, but under the condition that I had to soften the edges or use the right language. Been like more than 20 years, 25 years. But in all that time, I knew the time would come. I knew the day, the moment would come. I turned every single one of them down, not because I didn't want the book deal or the press or the attention. It was nothing to do with that. Not because I refused to let Codex be personal or refused to share it and keep it personal. That was not why. It was because I refused to let Codex be mistaken for personal development, and this is the key. because this is not personal development. I don't do personal development. I knew that if I released this work too early, the world would try to turn it into another method, another brand, another process. I knew they would try to translate it into the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual, the therapeutic frameworks, models, methods. And Codex is none of that. So I waited, not patiently, but with precision. I waited for the world to bend, for the collective to crack, and it is cracking. For the identity-based industries to start imploding under their own weight, and that is happening. For the self-help world to reach the inevitable burnout of its limited architecture, and that is happening. For people to finally admit that healing the same wound for 20 years is not evolution. It's addiction to the familiar pain loop. I waited for the moment when the world would be desperate enough for the truth that they would stop trying to interpret through the lens of their identity. And that moment is now. You can feel it everywhere. People who once worshipped healing are exhausted. People who once clung to spirituality are disillusioned. People who once built their entire lives around trauma narratives are recognizing the illusion. People who once sought endless inner work are stacking certificates, not creating lives. People who once trusted their identity are now haunted by the fact that it never delivered what it was promised. The world is now ready because the old world has nothing left to offer. Look around. Just look around. Look at the world we live in. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look at it. Identity politics is collapsing. The coaching industry is cannibalizing itself. Spirituality has become a theater. Psychology is decades behind the lived human experience. Healing has become glamorized suffering. Manifestation is a performance art. People are drowning in meaning. The nervous system is overloaded. The mind is loud. The body is screaming. The planet is shifting. people are not asking for improvement anymore. They're asking for replacement. Replacement of the system, replacement of the architecture, replacement of the identity, replacement of the entire way reality responds to them. They're not seeking answers. They're seeking authority, real authority, the kind that doesn't wobble, the kind that doesn't fear opinion, doesn't change tone to be liked, to be validated, doesn't teach from wounds, doesn't therapize, that's a word, therapize, consciousness, and doesn't bow to the mind. And that is what Codex is. And that is why this is the right time. Not because I'm finally ready. I've been ready for years. But because the world is finally cracked open enough to receive it. And everything has unfolded this month, November 2025. When I think back, it was November 1989, oh my gosh, when I escaped captivity, where I had been isolated from the world for about close on 2 decades, lived the most unimaginable torture and violence. But when I walked out that door in November 1989, I knew 3 things. That my life would be love, prosperity, and adventure. I knew that. I wasn't educated. I wasn't socialized. I didn't know how the world worked. And I stepped out into the world. I had no one, nothing, knew nothing. There was no internet in those days. There was no YouTube, no Bloomberg, CNN, BBC was there. That was it. But I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that my life would be love, prosperity, and adventure. And within a week, well, the day I left, November 1989, I stepped onto an airplane, never having flown before, never been to an airport before. Having used my Codex to get money, because I left with nothing and knew no one or nothing, got money, got on a flight, landed in London. On a Friday night, late November, raining, cold, wintry, alone. And within 1 week, I had 2 job offers, earning almost 6 figures. No education. Pure Codex. I've waited a long time to get this work out there, to share this. And this week, or this month, November 2025, has been a big step towards that. The books, having released both of them at the same time, no marketing, no lists, no funnels, no influencers, nothing, no great launch, nothing. But this month, the global recognition topping the charts in a few categories in several marketplaces, the numbers of downloads, the relentless momentum, the floods of messages I am getting, the surge of response has been unbelievable. And it's not luck, it's not virility, it's not timing, it's consequence. The world has reached the exact frequency where Codex can be heard as truth. Not metaphor, not theory, not inspiration, not philosophy, truth. And you can feel it. Everyone can feel it. The old world is ending and the new one is arriving. And Codex is the architecture. And this is why I'm opening this now. This is why I am speaking. And part of this, what I want to do, is something crazy, unique, off the scales, off the charts, phenomenal, unbelievable. I'm going to be doing something mad for 2026. It's what I'm calling the Origin 5. It's not a program, it's not a container. It's not another year of growth. This is the moment where I stop waiting for the world to be ready, because the world finally is. I'm so buzzed up for it. See, you're here to dissolve the layer that needs learning. And that's why I'm opening this, and why I'm speaking now, and why this moment matters. Because what I'm about to say is not an offer. What I'm about to speak about is not an offer. It's not an opportunity. It's not another container. It's not even another way to work with me. This is a threshold. And thresholds are not chosen. They're recognized. So I'm literally opening 5 seats, only 5, for a once only, never to be repeated year. Some are already taken. A full field Codex immersion in 2026 that I'm calling the Origin 5. And if those words hit you like a frequency more than a phrase, then you already know why I'm here. Let me tell you something I've never said aloud on a live stream before. Most people are not failing their lives. They're failing the systems their lives were built on. They're trying to heal inside the very architecture that creates the wound. They're trying to find clarity inside the mind that generates confusion. They're trying to be sovereign inside an identity programmed for survival. They're trying to manifest inside the field that was never designed for creation. Codex does not improve that system. Codex deletes it. And this is the line most people will never cross, because it requires the death of the identity that thinks it's in charge. When identity falls away, you don't become nothing, and this is what terrifies people. You become the thing identity was blocking, the architect of your reality, rather than the narrator of your pain. And this is why the Origin 5 exists. Why 5? Because the architecture needs anchoring, because law needs witnesses, because a new reality needs living, breathing, embodied proof of concept, before it can be, or before it becomes a planetary field. I'm not choosing 5 clients. I'm not teaching 5 students. I'm not mentoring 5 seekers. I'm choosing the 5 humans who will become the first carriers of the 2026 Codex architecture. That is what this is about. The system that is going into my PhD, the Codex OS application, the institutional collaborations Tiny and I are building behind the scenes, the cellular wisdom protocols that go beyond consciousness and into biology, and the override model that will become the standard of transformation when this industry collapses in on itself. Why me? Because whether I wanted it or not, this is the work I was built to bring. I didn't learn this. I didn't study it. I didn't extract it from anyone else's body of work. This has been part of my architecture since I was about 14, 15 years old. Codex arrived the moment Mimic died in me. And it was again in November, when I was about 14 or 15, on a very cold, chilly morning in Dublin, Ireland. It arrived when identity stopped running my life, against all odds, in the midst of the most horrendous violence and trauma. It arrived when identity stopped running my life. It arrived when I spoke from law instead of memory. It arrived when I became the axis instead of the observer. That was the night I knew I would escape, and I knew my life would be love, prosperity, and adventure. No matter what I knew it. It was inevitable. And from that moment on, I only ever spoke law. This isn't humility and it isn't arrogance. It's physics. And when you can see the architecture behind the human, when you can watch mimic form and collapse in real time, when you can see the fascia reorganizing before someone even speaks, when you can track interference like a map, then your work stops being transformation and becomes inevitability. And that is why this is happening now, because the world is shifting. Because identity-led systems are losing power, because mimic is cannibalizing the very industries that built it, because humans are hungry for something real, something that doesn't require healing, another freaking healing, doesn't require processing, storytelling, purging, rituals, reprogramming, shadow work, alignment. They're hungry for truth. And the truth is not a concept, it is a field. So let me tell you exactly what the Origin 5 will experience. Not in metaphor or promise, but in architecture. Their entire internal operating system collapses. Identity stops being the engine, emotion stops being the compass, patterns stop repeating because the architecture that creates them is gone. Their reality reorganizes around law, not psychology. Movement becomes instant, decisions become clean, opportunities reroute them or reroute through them, relationships clarify without drama, wealth flows because mimic isn't blocking the channel. The body recalibrates because interference isn't dictating physiology. They get access to the architecture the world won't see for years. The blueprint body engine, cellular wisdom at implementation level, the next generation of override, the diamond frequency integration, the systemic multi-layered reconstruction that will eventually be taught to institutions. And most importantly, they become the 5 whose names sit at the beginning of this expansion, not as clients, students, followers, but as anchors. The first humans to embody the 2026 architecture in real time. But this is important, and I want to make this very clear. This is not for the spiritually curious. This is not for the personal development collector, and it's not for anyone who wants to feel better. This is not for the one who's still addicted to the performance of struggle. And this is not for the one who wants to be coached into greatness. This is for the one who can feel down to the bone that their life as they know it is too small for who they actually are. This is for the one who can feel the faint hum of inevitability beneath the noise of their identity. The one who knows they're here to lead and not learn. The one who can sense that their next level is not an upgrade, but a replacement. The one who's ready to stop building from emotion, memory, and possibility, and start building from architecture. This is for the one who has outgrown the known, the one whose system is already pulling, the one who recognizes this field as truth because their body has been waiting for it. You'll feel it. You'll know. And if you are that human, you won't need convincing. You don't need details. You do not need reassurance. You just need the doorway. And the doorway is, it's $26,000 for the year. There are payment plans available, and there's 5 seats. Some already gone. Never repeated, and we begin in January. I want to be clear, this is not the moment to ask, how does it work? What do we do? What does this year look like? Because those questions belong to identity. And identity will not survive this year. The Origin 5 don't choose this from logic. They choose it from truth. And if your system knows, you already know. This isn't an offer. This is a beginning. A beginning that will reshape what the next decade of human evolution looks like. A beginning that will place you inside the architecture long before the world names it. A beginning that will link your name, your trajectory, your life to the rise of a system that will outlive all of us. 5 humans, that's all it takes to anchor a new reality. And that's why the Origin 5. If you feel the pull, message me directly, and your seat will open. And if you feel it, you already know. This is your moment. This is the threshold. This is the Origin year. With law, with certainty. With the architecture you were born for. I'm so excited to finally get this out there. And what we get to create. Thank you for joining me. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And I will see you on the internet somewhere. Or if you're joining me in Italy next week, I'll see you there. Yay!